Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session we are reviewing what is going to be a Masters McCree primarily on Junkertown. Who's this McCree here? Ah yes, Cole Cassidy. We will be CC. We will be reviewing mostly CC. Looks like, contrary to my message though, they will be starting on Widow here, which does make some degree of sense. Let's turn up the quality on this a bit if we can. Depends a bit on what they recorded at. 720, 260. That's fine. We'll go with that. New hero got released. Okay, so we're starting out on the Widow. We can see here that, let me actually check if this was organized play or not. Master's tourney game, focus on defense, last point attack. Okay, cool. So, tourney game, meaning this is organized play. We are set up with a poke comp and a very standard poke comp on our attack here. No problem. A YouTube video, blasphemy. Sometimes that's what you get. It was obviously from a time when the code got wiped, so that's what we get. Don't I mean Masters Cassidy review? Maybe. I don't particularly care either way. We can call it a CC review for all I care. Okay. Can't really see there. Okay, so we recorded... This isn't the gameplay itself. We recorded the replay before the replay got wiped. Okay, interesting. And we know that because of where the mouse is. That's fine. So we threw over here for an angle. That's perfectly fine. I'd have probably gone for the wider angle rather than peek down here, but I get it. You don't have your grapple. You really do need to get this angle, though. Keep going. Just keep rotating. Very little reason not to put your mind down behind you as you rotate up here. We're in a situation where, yes, I get it, you need to rotate up here, but as you're walking this way to get here, you should just put your mind behind you at the corner, because that's something that you want to cover. Is it likely anyone's going to come up on you that way? No, not terribly, but you're not really going to get a better mind situation here. So you go for that, and this is how you unlock this point with Widow. Nice little sequence. James says, I wonder how many times we can scold Temporal for using the canceled name before he gets annoyed with us. I mean, I don't really care. I don't really know that I'm going to find it annoying either. I'll just do it or I won't. If it was Cassidy, he would get McCree comments, exactly. Okay, so we're working our way up. We're going to take an angle. They're already there. You can walk. Like, no. Like, there's no reason to pause here because your Hanzo and your Zen are already opening those angles. It's not like, oh, well, I don't want to give away that I'm here. I want to wait until more of my team is here so I'm not 1v6ing. It'd be cool to not 1v6, but your Zen and Hanzo have already decided that they're going to look for picks, that they're going to push ahead and fish, and they have good enough poke to do it. You should join them.
No one can hide from my sight.
This was almost certainly an SMG moment. You know it's a Tracer here based on the sound effects, and we aren't actually interested in one-shotting Tracer. Don't get me wrong, it's totally great to one-shot Tracer, but in this situation, we are going to SMG. Not because, oh no, we can't do it, or this or that, but she's right on top of you, she's with your friends, and your friends are going to shoot at her, because that's who's available for them to shoot at. And in these situations, your one-shot, which is what you're getting by being scoped like this, is a lot less useful. You don't want this sink or swim, all or nothing. I hit the one shot or I get nothing, or I hit the one shot, I get the body shot or I get nothing. You instead would prefer more reliable damage. I would rather have something that's 50% good and will hit almost 100% of the time than something that's 100% good and will hit 50% of the time, when I also have other allies attacking this hero here. So not my favorite here to go with your scope on this Tracer when she's right on top of you and you have friends here. That said, I would have been perfectly happy after this to throw the mine. Literally to just throw the mine to the left as you're walking forward, or to throw the mine up here. just on this corner, like on the corner of the wall right here, so that when you later rotate away, it's going to be useful. I do want this mine, and I want it thrown into a somewhat useful spot as you're rotating, because there's just not a very good reason not to. You also popped your infocytes too early, and I didn't go over this because the tracer came
No
up,
one
but there's not a great reason to use your infocytes right now. Like, the cart could push. It's okay. It's an okay infocyte, but I really want like 2 seconds
hide
later
from my
about
sight.
now when you're really starting to push the cart and your team into a situation where they didn't want to commit when you pop this infocytes. Like, if you look here,
No one
this opposing team wasn't ready to commit yet, and they were probably still a good 3, 4, maybe even 5 seconds from really wanting to commit on you
can
guys.
hide from my sight.
And what you want to do is you want to mess up their staging with your infocytes. You want to cause them to go, okay, we're ready. We're ready to commit to the fight. We're ready to hit our dives. We're ready to drop behind you. We're ready to drop our supercharges. And, oh no, you just popped infocytes. And they might then choose to fight you through your infocyte, but it makes it a really uncomfortable decision for them. You don't want to pop this way early. Infocyte is a thing that you want to pop just before the fight breaks out. It's one of those sorts of ults just before things get serious. Like, now would be a pretty good time to pop infocytes, because if you pop infocytes now, well, it's free card space. If they don't contest, if they don't take the fight, your card is actually pushing through valuable space here, and your team is going to continue to be able to push deeper and take greater angles against this team if this team cowers, if this team retreats, as opposed to right now, these guys, you wasted a third of your infocyte so far, and these guys are backing off, sure, but you're not really going to have time to take the positioning to advantage of them having cowered. It was just too early. It's a fake temporal. Temporal hasn't said mine yet. I've said mine a few times. We need to use the mine. I could go mine, 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 because we haven't used the mine at all meaningfully yet, but hey. But what if Widow got renamed? We could still call her Widow because she'd still be a widow. We'd just be referring to that not as a name or a shortening of a name, but as, hey, that is a way to factually describe her. Okay, question. What about using Infocyte for Hanzo and Zen easy shots? You didn't say it when I said that. No, I brought up mine actually. I brought mine back up on first point. I brought mine back up when Gabriel here got the 3K, really in the middle of the 3K, when he was walking between having gotten the pick on the Hanzo behind the building, and I wanted him to drop his mine as he was transitioning from behind the building to the front of the building. I brought it up already. Okay. What about using Infocyte for Hanzo and Zen for easy shots? Well, easy shots for them. So, what you're talking about is when your Hanzo and Zen were ahead, and it's say, hey, I want my Hanzo and Zen to have easy shots to get pickoffs here, and I'm doing this as a support thing to help them out. But the thing that you run into is, did that information really help them? Like, yes, if that's going to cause them to get an elimination that they wouldn't otherwise get, that's valid. If they were in trouble and they were going to be stuck and they couldn't get out without the help of infocytes, that would be valid. But I don't really think it's going to help them get an elimination, or I don't think the probability is high enough that it's going to help them get an elimination that they wouldn't otherwise be able to get. If there was stagger elims to get that you think they needed that they weren't going to be able to get, but that was the difference maker, sure. But I just don't think it's terribly likely that Infocyte was going to be the difference maker on getting stagger limbs. It rarely is for that sort of thing. You don't, because when you're trying to get stagger limbs, you're mostly getting limbs on people that are trying to run away, trying to get out. And Infocyte is generally going to work better when the opponents kind of want to fight you because they don't want you to get the free card objective. The first Widow made by Widowmaker was herself. Right. 3K is not enough. Drop the mine! Exactly. Hey, Carolina. Resident catbox emoter. There should be a mine at the front. Okay. I can live with this. You really need to figure out how you're going to get a different angle than Hans. Okay. Yeah, I'm okay with this mine. I really generally, if you didn't have infocytes and therefore didn't know the soldier was right there, I'd say I'm not convinced you want this mine here because Hanzo's already covering this angle, but sure. Okay, that was almost certainly... Did you change your mind here? Is that what happened? Because of the window? Sure. You heard your mine go off, so you're going to turn to look at where your mine was, right? Right? No. Cool, works for me. I don't really want to stack on the cart, though. At all.
Now I feel alive.
Pushing up for staggers, I like it. Standing on the ground is different than Hanzo. That's true. That's true. It's not really different than your Orisa, but it is true. Okay. So now we're on to the more serious portion of the attack. Those were obviously a bit of a breeze. You're trying to find your way around hands. And it's a rock, but not a big deal. Team's on it. He's already there, so you're going to work your way left. Left. You can do this. Nah. I don't really want this one. Like, yes, it's cute. Yes, you can get an elimination, but I want to be thinking about where we're going to get to. And I don't really like using this grapple because now, if we don't get anything from this grapple, our options are, well, we can walk up here the same way Hansa did. We can walk up here to then walk across, which will give us something a little bit different, but it's really long, and it sure would have been nice to just grapple up to here and have this different angle, or grapple up to here and have this different angle. Or walk up to here and threaten this lower angle and be able to grapple out. All of those are more attractive than having fished for something there, when now we're going to have to, while our grapple is on cooldown, rotate on our feet to a place. Or we could rotate all the way on the low ground, all the way up through the thing, and sort of go like, aha, I'm going to go like that, and from over here, I'm going to be able to angle back in. But I don't really want to be on my team, like on top of my core, with grapple on cooldown when like that's unless I had to run here because I got shoot off. Like a Genji shooed me off, a Tracer shooed me off, someone forced me back to my team and I went back to my team to get help. Sure, you might have grappled back to your team to get help. I don't want to have used my grapple and ended up with my team though. It's one thing to use your grapple to get height for a trick shot like you just did when you did it on second, where you already had a place that you were willing to play from. You were playing from right side, Hanzo was looking to take left window, that sort of thing. Yeah, that absolutely made sense because even when your grapple's over, you're still in a reasonable place to get some value. You're not in a very good place to get value, and you don't have a good way to transition to places that get value either right now. So, like, no. Sure. I feel like that melee was a little slow. He's in your face? Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. It's a little bit of risk, but it was calculated. We'll take it. We have a vote for the best Widow skin being the snake one from New Year. Any agreements, disagreements? What do people think? Do people like that one? Do people like some of the bigger remakes like Nova from StarCraft? What do people like?
No one can hide.
Okay, so there we go.
No one can hide from my
So here we are. We threw our mine there. I'm good with that mine. I look at this. And again, we're sort of in this like, ah, yes, it's a trick shot. And trick shots are cool, but the problem you run into with, hey, I'm going to go up for an upper trick shot like this is exactly what we talked about last time of, Okay, but now your spot isn't very good. Like, this is a little bit better than last time. You're a little different than your team. You have cover available. You're in a place where you can sort of threaten them. But I don't really like this one all that much. I'd much rather hit these trick shots when I already have a spot like up here and I go higher with my trick shot. Or I already have a spot like over here when my team's back here and I go up here to hit my trick shot and then I fall and I've still got a reasonable angle. Trick shots that are like basically right on top of your team, not your favorite.
A legend falls.
It's not a vote, it's just a fact. Okay, okay. But you could be like one of the Redditors who was, anyway, Redditor got in an argument. I guess it wasn't with me, it was with someone else. And no, it was in response to the guide that we reviewed that was that was from Anima, that had to do with SR and what does it mean and things like that. And they got into well, that's not true because it's not true in my subjective reality, and this is just your subjective reality. And it's like, no, don't give me this subjective reality nonsense. And I could go there. I could say no. In your subjective reality, that's true, but no, I wouldn't do that. A Redditor got into an argument. Can't believe it, right? So wild. Okay, so we're here. We grapple ourselves up here. Immediately need to do some damage. Fine. That's a kind of open angle reload. Okay, you're reloading, so tuck left. Tuck left. Why are you tucking right? Why are you opening the angle as you're reloading? I just have very little need to force this from this direction. My Orissa's only choice is to force this from this direction. So I immediately want to force this from this direction because I have this thing called Grapple Claw. And like my Orissa's going to force this from this direction, even if she's going to be a second slower than I am to force this from this direction, she's going to push this way. I want to go this way to get the appropriate cutoff, to get the appropriate aha. As you're retreating, as this fight is evolving, I'm deepening my angle against you. And I can do that much more extremely like this with grapple than by taking steps like you are here. You like Biathlon, the winter event one? Fair, fair. And Spider is awesome. Epic Skin deserves some love too. Sure. Let's not forget that Redditors have the lowest value of any social network. I mean, I expect that's meant from a monetary value, and it's meant from a monetary value because advertising on Reddit carries the least value. Like Reddit is terrible as a place to buy ads, like absolutely terrible as a place to buy ads. It probably also does the least in terms of dragging them off Reddit onto another platform that you can monetize. Like you can take a Twitter following from Twitter, or have them on Twitter, build a Twitter following, and bring them into your ecosystem where you're getting paid ads on Instagram or getting paid ads on YouTube or getting paid for ads on. Yeah, that's probably what's meant there, but I didn't look at the article. Okay, so this happens. Sure. Yeah. Ball's gonna surprise you sometimes. Shouldn't happen. Your team, mostly this is a result of your team being too squished. I mean, we have to be aware of the Hammond, of course, because they have a Hammond now. We hear the pile drive. You pretty much just need to grapple away from pile drives. He hurts too much. Yeah. Yeah, you pretty much just need to grapple away from pile drives, especially if you're discorded. But hey, it's life. Ads feel very lax on Reddit. Well, they're just bad. Like, ads on Reddit are just bad. They do not have a good return on investment. Reddit has a tough relationship with ads because there's this situation where they're like no self promotion and they're pretty harsh on no self promotion through most of the stuff. They're like buy ads instead, but then their ads are absolutely garbage. And you'd literally make more money by making a good Reddit post than by putting up an ad. And that you can't just like buy the ability to make Reddit posts that they don't flag as self promotion is kind of foolish. Like that would fix some of the problem, to be perfectly honest. But instead they go, no, buy an ad, and then it's marked as an ad, and it looks really people don't click into the ads. Like, they don't. And you can actually look at some of the ads, and if they weren't marked as ads, they'd actually have good traction and get a decent number of comments because they're somewhat interesting. But Reddit is like, no, no, we have to label them as ad, and I get it. It's because of history. It's because of when Reddit formed on the internet and how Reddit got its user base from other places that were running ads and that sort of thing. But like, no one wants to advertise on it. It's not a good use of ad dollars. Was people would love to make posts on it, but there's basically a no, you can't do that, and you get into this weird situation of like your best way to advertise on Reddit is still to break their rules and be like, hey, can you get people to post your stuff for you? Not you post your stuff, but you post stuff for you. But maybe also have them mix in posting some other people's stuff so they don't trigger self-promotion rules and be like, okay, well, this person isn't going to do ads. Instead, you're going to maybe get them to post your stuff and post 10 other people's stuff, and they go on a rotation. And it's just like, this is not a good solution. Okay. What about best Zen skin? Squid Zen? Sure, sure. Little Cthulhu Zen. Best Cassidy skin? Lifeguard? Ah, okay.
Où en étais-je?
Okay, let's continue through here. And now we are on to some McCree. Though you can make a ton of content commenting Reddit wild posting. I can do that. I don't know that I could do that on Reddit in general. I can do that on Overwatch University because Overwatch University has flagged me specifically as being A-OK to self-promote. I do not think I could do what I do on Reddit on the rest of Reddit, or I could do it. I could make videos on them, but I couldn't link the videos on the post that I was reviewing. Or maybe I could. I could try that more aggressively, but I expect that they'd get flagged. Okay, here we are. We're pushing through on Krieg. Appropriate to push through here. Sure. It's kind of early. Like, she sees you. She clearly sees you, and you're just like, I'm gonna do this. You're really just hoping that she's out of blinks. That wasn't great. You were better off with a shot there. A shot is cheaper than your flashbang for forcing an ability out of her. Your flashbang absolutely makes sense if you think you've caught her unawares, if you think she's not aware of you, but she's looking right at you. And this is Masters, or at least this is a tournament for Masters level players. You don't expect Master level tracers that are staring right at you to go, oh, I didn't see you and you caught me with flashbang. Like, no, it doesn't matter that you just showed up on her screen. She sees you. McRight click, man, yeah. Yeah, so this is unfortunate. Obviously, there's a little bit of a 2v1, but you're kind of doomed because you use this. Now, fortunately, she used recall, so you're not totally doomed. But you're pre-discorded. Even if you close line of sight on Zen, you're pre-discorded. Now you're going to go for the Tracer. I mean, this is right. It's really just a case of you needed to break the angle on the Zen faster in case the Tracer came back, or you needed to limb the Zen faster. I can deal. Like, the flashbang is what this all comes out of, effectively. Obviously, you know, taking 3 shots to not hit her at the beginning when she popped out here with her first blink was a problem, but that's just mechanics. Because she shouldn't, and we'll go over it. I mean, she shouldn't be able to do this right here. 1 shot, 2 shot. I mean, that's 3 shots to get 1 blink out of her, and that can't really happen. One of those first 2 shots needed to hit her. And she should have blinked, she just didn't respect you. But you didn't hit the shot, so she got away with not respecting you.
I've got unfinished business.
Curse Tracer in her small hitbox? Yeah, yeah.
Greetings. Hello.
Okay.
Hello. Oi. Hello.
We must get the payload moving again.
Hello.
Okay, we're rotating across here. What's your team comp now? You have yourself a McCree, Bap, Zen, and a Hanzo. I'd have probably said this was Ash. Like, if you're McCree, I expect you to sort of be doubling up on your stuns and also have yourself a Brig. And then just move your core around in a very bulky way between your McCree Sigma Brig there or McCree Brig Orisa. That's not really what you did. You went like this, and if you went like this, I'd have probably just gone Ash instead of Widow for the better poke threats that you have, especially on this part of the map. This part of the map is a decent size. That said, you can use it. There's a short flank. You can use it as Cree. Who's McCree? You don't see him in your gallery? Okay, Cassidy. Good. So here you are. You forced her out. What knocked you down? So that's just the halt? No, you just kind of nosedive down here because you want to now get out. Okay, sure. Yeah, the Elim would be nice. Not happening so far. Did you need that? Yeah. You ready with Flash? Yeah. She was very likely to chase you there. She knew how little health you had. You sort of need to be pre-ready with Flash to literally hit the Flash on reaction to her blinking through. You hear the blink that is likely her blinking to break the corner like this, and your Flash is already out. That's kind of what you needed to do, where your crosshair needed to be trained, all that, if you were going to survive there. And you might be going, what, temporal? You're telling me to flash, just like that? Well, yeah, you're predicting the blink with the flash. You hear the blink, you predict that she's going to be right there, and you flash it is what we're talking about. Like, Tracer doesn't really want to double blink when she breaks a doorway like that. She's using her blink to, sort of not be in a predictable location, that sort of thing, which ironically makes her a little predictable, but also it's a small enough area that you can get her with the flash either way. Or Cassidy's flash either way, sure.
My ultimate's ready.
They should have named him Mr. Freedom or Cowboy. Cowboy just sounded awkward, so I disagree with that one. Yeah, things happen. Why? Oh, you guys don't have a Brig. I'm looking at that self-destruct and going, why did that get in? But it's because you guys don't have a Brig. Usually that self-destruct wouldn't get hit because it would get stopped by Brig. It would literally get bash stunned on the way in, and then Brig would back up, and it would be fine. That self-destruct... Yeah, okay. You guys are kind of vulnerable to that. Again, Zenbap is a perfectly valid line, but you guys don't have some of the brawl power that you'd normally have if you feel like this Tracer is giving you trouble, or if you feel like you need to be able to bully them out, move them a little bit better. Like, I look at this comp, and this comp is now real enough. They have themselves a Ball, a Tracer, a Diva. Like, there's enough, a Discord Orb. There's enough dive power in this comp that the McCree swap is totally fine with me. But I probably do want to swap over to the Brig as well. Like, I do. I want to swap over to that. Could probably stopped it with the halt, yeah. Does that one work? I don't remember. You could have stopped it with the flashbang, but you were busy guarding Tracer, which was perfectly reasonable. Yeah, I'm hoping you guys are going to adjust your comp. That said, you're not because you have Transcendence. Mr. Freedom, there we go. You can't right-click when playing Cree or Cassidy to this day. Okay. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Don't underestimate the right-click. Clint Westwood. Okay, we're taking this rotation again. Now you're on to the soldier, McCree. And the thought there, I see it. I'm not really sure I agree. I'd really just prefer, like, oh, but this was your Hanzo player. He's not going to be able to play Tracer. Because usually I'd say just play your own Tracer. Literally play your own Tracer. This would be Tracer plus McCree, and you guys would be happy. You guys would be very happy. It does a lot more to contain one of these two with your own Tracer, to not let them in, to not let them set up the good surround. But I'm commenting on your comp, and that's less helpful. Okay. It's organized play though, so I'm going to do some level of that because you just can't solve all these problems by yourself in organized play when your teammates are going to work together and execute their comp somewhat correctly. Sure, you have High Noon. Sure. Why? So here you go. You go like this. You flashbang it into that. You then reload. You've got a window, but that's got tack visor. We needed to tuck right. You then roll off. Okay. You looking for Tracer. Okay. Nah, that health pack's not even worth picking up. Like, that detour just isn't worth. Yeah. You have 185 health. You need to find more. You need to either invest time to set up to try to find more, where you'll be able to get 2 or 3, or you need to, like, try to force finding more right now. I do not care about the health that you're missing. I don't. No. Okay. Little rough. The real answer is you guys needed to adjust your comp to be more anti-dive as they went into a Zen Bell dive comp. I mean, the Zen Bell dive comp is going to beat you. That's sort of what it does. You obviously could harden your team, and make it harder for them to beat you by including your own flanker to go with your McCree, or by including your own Brig to go with your McCree. Both of those are options. If you want to not go, hey, if you want to stay double poke against the dive comp, you can actually win that too, but you need to mess up their staging more effectively, and your angles are what protect you. So there's some macro stuff to think about there. When it comes to our more micro stuff, we do need to analyze this Tracer duel a little bit more closely. We do need to be a bit more careful here when it comes to, hey, we do need to flasher when it makes sense. We can hit flashes that are she's not aware of us type flashes. So those would be, we sneak up on her and flash her type thing. She's shooting at someone else and we don't think she's aware of us and we flash her type thing. She blinks through a doorway thinking that we're there, but, not prepared for us to immediately flash her, that sort of thing. Like, we're going to need to get a little bit more flashbang value effectively for this to work. She was clearly what you were thinking about, what you were trying to do in this match, and we weren't quite getting enough value in terms of denying her value. But let's continue on through here. We obviously talked a lot about your Widow. We're going to see more of your Kree here. When it comes to your Widow, obviously there's mind work to do, but there's also more important than the mind work would be you're a little too willing to stack with your team, and it might feel like, oh, especially as they get more divey, I have to stack with my team. It's a trap. You want to be in places where your team can support you and you can support your team, but you don't peel for each other well when you're on Widow, Hanzo, Sigma, Orisa by standing on top of each other. You peel for each other well by being able to not let the opponents take any map control from you and being able to hit your teammates if someone does force a bad dive onto them. And then trick shots. You go for your trick shots, and I don't mind going for the trick shots, but please go for your grapple shots when you're going to then be able to fall into a place where you can be threatening, or you can be threatening just by existing there. Even if you're then not willing to open the angle after you've hit a trick shot, and you're in a spot and the opponents know you're in the spot, you being in that spot should cause some level of threat to them, should cause them to have to continue to respect the possibility of you opening that angle a bit. And that's not really happening when you drop from a trick shot into your team. It's sort of like, aha, I went fishing to try to get in a limb and I didn't, and now we're going to wait 10, 12, whatever seconds and not really be much more threatening than we already were, because Orisa was already shooting from this angle. Zen was already shooting from this angle, that sort of thing. Is this like tanks peel for tanks, support for supports, and DPS for DPS? No, not really. Supports do peel for supports, but the reality is pressure peels for everybody. If you keep the opponents contained with angles, like your opponents are over here, for example, and your DPS, let's actually do this. Let's say your opponents are over here, and you have a Hanzo over here, and a Widow over here, and maybe you have yourself a Zen over here, and maybe we'll put the Orisa with them, maybe we'll put the BAP with them, and maybe we'll put Sigma like this. I don't care. We could have, let's actually put our Sigma with our Hanzo. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. Let's put one more. Let's put our Sigma over here with our Hanzo. If you go like this, these guys are all somewhat effectively peeling for each other. Where, hey, if the opponents try to move at our Hanzo Sigma, they can get shot quite easily. If they actually get to our Hanzo Sigma, they can still be shot quite easily. If they go here, they're just going to get absolutely crushed on the way in by... Oh, they're going to get absolutely crushed on the way in by shots like this, as well as getting shot like this while these guys kite. If they go over here, much the same thing happens. You want to be in places where you don't really let them stage, because when they will be successful on this dive against this Widow, for example, if that's what they're doing, is if they're able to set up a situation where they can get like this. If they can set this situation up before they pull the trigger and dive, they will be able to eliminate your Widow, or they'll even be able to outpoke your Widow. But setting this up against your Widow becomes challenging if setting this up against your Widow requires that this person is living sort of in this triangle that's threatened, right? It's tough to set this triangle up against your Widow when this space is being threatened. You can't really stage here. You see how that goes? Or even if you try to pass through this, you should take damage and then have to get healed, find health packs, that sort of thing, risk getting eliminated, that sort of thing. Like, you look at this and go, hey, you can't really stage. If you can surround the Widow, if you can surround, and I did the Widow as an example, but we can do this just as easy over, oh, sure, we'll bring our BAP back. Give me just a second. Sigma, BAP. Same thing, if you could set up like this, you'd probably do a pretty good job of taking down this Orisa Zen Brig core. That would be pretty tough if you could hit a dive like this. But you can't really stage this because, hey, like, this is not going to work for you. You can't really stage this. You can't really stage this. That's not something that should be allowed to work. You're instead going to have to stage against this group or this group, and even that is challenging to do. So what you're probably going to have to do is you're going to have to force this group back. You're going to have to force this group to retreat. You're going to have to force this group to retreat. And if you force one of the groups to retreat, let's say you force the Hanzo Sigma group to retreat, and now you're in a situation where Hanzo, Sigma, Zen, Orisa, and BAP are all together, and Widow's out here. Well, now suddenly we can actually get angles around this Widow that are actually meaningfully useful for triggering and forcing an elimination. And we can do that while maybe we have one or two people over here, again, outside, not in here because this is a death sentence, but outside going, hey, we're going to be annoying to you guys. We're going to force a couple of you to turn your attention this way, but we're not in real danger of getting eliminated. I know that was a long explanation, but I hope that makes sense. Okay. Just go break big brain. Well, it does help. Okay. So we have some Cole Cassidy. And we've set up our comp. I'm a little hesitant on this. I'm a little hesitant on this BAP Zen setup with the McCree. Like, I'd usually bring the Brig in before I'd bring the McCree in. I'd usually go, hey, like, Brig does more consistently to shut down a flanker or two flankers than McCree does. And McCree doesn't have great range and effectiveness on this portion of the map. So, like, I could go, if I bring McCree, McCree's the secondary, hey, we're sick of their dives hero. The primary one is going to be Brig, and I'd rather your Brig right now be on Widow or Ashe, really Widow for this point, Ashe for second point, maybe McCree for second point, and swap to the McCree if they're giving you too much trouble. This, like, we're going to be Bap Zen. It's a little on the greedy side, in my opinion. It's a little different with a bunker than it is with a dive comp. Like, if we were running their comp, for example, for sure, I would have the Brig before I would have the McCree. It's a little more debatable with this comp. I guess I can go with the McCree first. Yeah, I still just don't like it on this point. Sorry if this has been asked a million times, but what does the stream say, McCree, not Cassidy? Are you really sorry? Are you really sorry? No, it literally said it because McCree was the first thing that came to mind, and because McCree is what it said in my DMs for the person who were reviewing. They're like, it's a Masters McCree VOD, so, that was just where my brain was. I'm going back and forth on what I'm calling our cowboy character. I suppose we could fit a few more Daves in there. We'll see where I settle. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here you are, and you're stacked, and I hate it. Like, I legit hate it. Please stop stacking. Okay, we see there's a ball over there. Cool. We go do that. I don't really want you stacked with your team. I would have preferred you a little more off to the right. Like, again, your poke heroes, yes, you are a poke burl hybrid. You have flashbang. Flashbang has a limited range, but I didn't want you standing here. I wanted you from the get-go more over there because this is a lane. And if these guys get us around on you, especially when you're single stun, not double stun as a team, they're going to win. If the opposing team, if you're all stacked here, and the opposing team is able to get control over here, and to get someone behind you, and maybe to get someone over here, they're going to win. You are going to lose. So how do you stop this? Well, pretty easy. They're always going to be able to get someone here, but instead of all being stacked here, you just spread out a little bit, and now you're over here, and it's much harder for them to get someone from here over to here when you're here. And if this person gets Harmony Orb support, gets help, and is able to drive you back, so be it, though I'd ask why you're not getting Harmony Orb support and the like, and you fall back to here, and that's perfectly okay, and then they hit their dive, but at least they had to do it in 2 steps. You're letting them do it in 1 step, you have much less likelihood of picking them off. Now, I'm not asking that you set up a million miles away, I am asking you to set up just a little further to the right where you're blocking off this lane over here, and where you can go, hey, even if they try to brute force a dive, like, aha, we're going to brute force a dive like this, where 4 people dive from here, and 2 people dive from here, and this sort of thing, okay, yeah, you won't be there, but you'll be able to get back pretty quick. You'll chip them down on the way. This will also be a really shallow dive that they can easily just kite backwards. So you not being there isn't a big deal because once they kite backwards, your team is here, you're here, and now they've put 6 blue X's here, and oh wait, 6 blue X's. We're not referring to the Contenders player, who is also a member of this community, and we see in scrims and such a fair bit. But now they're in a situation where, hey, they're in the concave situation, and they're in the concave situation having just used their movement abilities to get there. So, like, you don't need to be stacked on top of your team here. If you are stacked on top of your team here, it's because you have enough brawl power to just win, but you have to remember, this team comp, does not have to instantly dive you when they surround you. This team comp can surround you and just sort of pressure cook you. If you guys stack, you're red, so if you guys stack a bunch of red X's here, and they go, hey, we have our Tracer just cooking you from here a little bit, we have Hammond just cooking you from here a little bit with Poke, and we have Soldier up here shooting at you, maybe with some Zen support, they're going to win. That might seem weird to you because, like, you have Hanzo, who's a good poke hero, and Sigma, who's a good poke hero, and Zen, who's a good poke hero, and Bap, who's a good poke hero, and McCree, who's a good poke hero, and Orisa, who's a good poke hero. But, like, if you have to shoot in 3 different directions, it doesn't matter. The advantage is just too big. This comp can beat you. Even if they had a Sombra instead of Soldier, this comp can beat you over time. Now, they're more likely, if you're stacked like this, to just pull the trigger and dive on you, because they'll win if they pull the trigger and dive on you, and they'll win harder. But this comp does not lose a we surround you and poke you. Like, having the concave, having the surround is that big of an advantage when it comes to the poke battle, that even though your heroes are better than theirs at poke, they can win it. They won't win it 90% of the time, but they can win it 55-60% of the time. Just call him McRight click. Dave. Okay. 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 Uh-oh. Uh-oh. You guys are thinking that I'll just put anything in the title if you DM that that's the hero that's being reviewed. Okay. Okay. Could be fun. Okay, this is reasonable because no one else has a fight. This ball should just lose a ton of health here. Ton of health. Okay, you force the ball out, and now you pull your team back. You pull your team back, and you hard push. Okay, we're going this direction instead. Unfortunate. So, this was fine. We got to... Oh, no. Am I miscounting the opponents here? Yeah, so this is great. There's a bunch of you here. You can quickly take this fight. What you guys want to do is you basically want to hard rush this way. You want to hard push. Even as poke characters, you want to force a brawl, and you want to force it in this direction behind this building to immediately eliminate, or more likely, force these guys to leave. And then once you force these guys to leave while they're low on health, then you'll notice this comp is not great at restoring health. While they're leaving, the four of you that have driven them off this way while forcing these guys in, because they're going to try to come in to get you over here, you'll force these guys out, and then you'll come right back out while these guys are leaving with their 200 health, with their 100 health, with their low abilities, using their movement to leave. You'll then push back out and take this one-directional fight against these dive heroes who you're better at, who you are better at a one-directional fight than, I'll effectively say. So, like, that's what you wanted to do. This just needed to be good micro calling in terms of push, brawl, push, brawl, whatever, with these guys right here. Push the fight over until you are out of line of sight of the other guys. Make these guys leave. You're not going to eliminate them. You might get lucky and get ball, but you're not going to eliminate these guys. You are, however, going to get them very low health, make them struggle, make them spend their cooldowns. The rest of their team is going to come back in, and you push back out here. Either as this team gets here, you're able to turn and fight them, or you force these guys to leave, and then you come back out as this team, again, preferably, is using their abilities to try to get in, and it's fish in a barrel for you. They're coming from one direction, their tanks aren't in. Yeah, you guys are down for, but like, hey, that's how you pilot this fight to get back into it.
Back in the saddle again.
The payload has reached.
Okay, put some pressure there. Cool. So who's holding... You should instantly know who's holding right. Now, my guess is you want Hanzo to hold right, not you. What? Okay, so please do this better. Please do this better. Please do this better. No, no, no. Yeah, fine. Put pressure on D.Va. I don't care. You're already here because you pushed D.Va. We'll take it. Keep this angle. Keep the angle. Okay. So what I would like to see happen is Sigma plus Hanzo hold over here. Orisa plus Zen hold about where you are. I can't show everything at once because I don't have map control. And you are highly aware of this hallway. highly aware of this hallway. This is right for your Orisa and Zen. I'd like your Hanzo and Sigma over here, and you're super aware of this hallway right here. You could even get aggressive and go, hey, I'm poking from here, I'm poking from here, I'm poking from here, or, I'm poking from here, super aware of this hallway, super aware of it. And then as the fight starts to go on at all, I leave and take a nice 5-second rotation to then come out and push these guys from a new angle as they've started to commit, that sort of thing. Because this team will not win, even if your contribution from here is very light. This team will not win against you unless they get a surround on you. How can they get a surround on you? Well, they either have to force their way through where your Hanzo and Sigma should be holding, and or they have to force their way through this hallway. They're not going to be able to effectively force their way through mid-low ground because they're going to take too much chip damage from your Zen, your Orisa, your Hanzo and Sigma shooting them in the back, that sort of thing. So we need to make sure that this doesn't happen if we're going to win. So you see how you're peeling for your team more effectively, not by standing on top of them, but by actually paying more attention to this hallway. Even if you completely just ignored this fight over here and went, I'm literally going to not AFK, but like stand and hold the hallway, and then as it becomes clear based on callouts how the fight's going, I'm going to go deeper and come out, you'd still be set up well to win this fight. Now you're probably going to set here so that if they try to force a dive, you can roll out and flash and help, that sort of thing. But as the fight goes, you'll make a judgment of am I going deeper or am I staying here. And you're not going to get overwhelmed here because you're staying close enough to your team until you decide to take your risk that your team can help you out. You can go to them. If they show up in here with 3 flankers, or if they show up in here with his ball plus tracer, something like that, okay, yes, you're going to be in some trouble. You should still be able to get out if you're not positioned too deeply, but that shouldn't really be something like if they're able to remove this many people, this is where scouting comes into play. Of, hey, if they're able to remove this many people, your team should just be decimating what's left. If your team can't see what's left, well, hug a little bit closer to your team type thing. If your team knows and calls out where the tracer and ball are, go deeper in this so you can then go open your angle through the basement and have another angle on them. Okay, they're doing this rotation. Crosshair placement isn't quite right here. We would like our crosshair placement to be much more over here, not over here. No one can appear right here. Okay. We'll just pretend we didn't see that. You need to make him leave more. I don't know what you're doing. You can call for help here, but you do need to make him leave more. And again, I was talking about wanting you to go cover that angle. If you decided to cover this angle instead, even though I think Hanzo's better suited to it, because you were there already, because you'd gone up to push the diva already, that would have been perfectly fine. But you instead fell back to your team. Mm-hmm. There's a window. Okay. So you see Hanzo's decided that he wants to own that hallway angle, which is fine with me. So I want you to go own the window. Too late to own the window now. They're effectively through. Okay. And this is the sort of thing where if you had good calls of where their tracer and ball were, you deepen this angle and come out and peek this. This is right, except it's not really aggressive anymore because A, you've already won the fight, and B, your team has dropped ahead of you. You guys need to split better. Okay. You guys also need to figure out your support ult situation a little bit better. Sorry, I'm calling Lamp a support ult here. You can potentially use both, but it should be, if you're going to use both like this, it would be Lamp first, and then Zen makes the decision of, do I still need to trans, or are we still going to be in too much danger even with the Lamp? Oh well. No. Just no. Just keep shooting at him. Oh boy. Okay. We'll never say your name or stream or call you Eliminate Eliminator. There we go. Okay. So a little annoying that the time you sort of played this right, in terms of holding this hallway here, your team lost the fight, but this has a lot more to do with, hey, they've actually already set up their angles to some degree. No one is holding window, which is a problem, and you guys burned lamp and trans at the same time. Like, yeah, that's going to be a problem. You then do hit a not very good high noon here, to be perfectly honest. That wasn't a good place to stand. Sadly, even though you found good limbs, and you did, you found that worked quite well for you. You found good limbs there. That was great. Team unfortunately melted too hard. So now it's going to be a little more dicey, but respawn should maybe not. Boss to be the single hero, it's most worth learning for Overwatch 2. I don't think they will bounce him quickly enough to make up for the reduction in CC. Probably not. Though, to be fair, maybe that's better news for Winston. I mean, like, that's a big deal for Ball, and Ball definitely doesn't like all the CC, and all the CC does a good job of controlling Ball, but part of the thing about Ball is Ball can sort of take the CC and survive, whereas Winston was in a, okay, I need a lot of help. I need an Ana. I need a Diva. Those sorts of things. And it could be that he's the monster because of it. We'll see. But I'd put smarter money on Ball, yeah. You're rolling at him without flash? Okay. Yeah, that seemed unwise. Let's just go with unwise for this. No. Melee. How is this ever going to win? I think you just don't realize how much health he still has left, but the guy's still got effectively a third of his health. You can't win with melees. You have to complete a reload, which makes meleeing him here worthless. If someone else is shooting him, meleeing him might have value, but you literally can't win with melees. Your only chance is to survive long enough to be able to get a reload and then hitting real shots. Once you've completed a reload, you could maybe do a combination of real shots and melees, but melees are just delaying your reload here. Like, you're just... That was just wrong.
Back in the saddle again.
I like how McCree got forced to not be stacking on top of his team and punished this ball during staging. Right? Right? Now we want to do that more often and more intentionally. Why did we stay here? Like, this is happening. You're walking out. We have a Brig now. That's more interesting. A Brig and a Torv. You guys really don't like their dive. You can poke at this, but can we be rotating? Can we just shoot them through this window as we rotate up to the high ground to get ourselves over here so that we have, again, an angle? Okay, so if you're going to do the stack on your team thing, which is now sort of a valid option because you have the Cree plus Brig and you even added a Torb to it, that's sort of a valid option now. You have to aggressively move as a unit to go clear stuff out, to go clear their off-angled McCree, to go clear their Tracer that's staging, to go clear after you've cleared people that are staging their backline. You have to use how bulky and heavy you are to move these guys around to not let them have good setups. That's a thing that has to happen now if you're going to all stack together like this. Which you do now have good enough peel to stack together like this if you want, but you have to use it. You have to go be a bully with your silly levels of peel. You can't just poke. If you poke stacked, I'm going to be upset. There we go. Go be a bully. Team bully, go! So here you are. Are we going to push these people back? I'm okay if we push these people back. We're not pushing these people back. Yeah.
Back into the mix.
Okay. You can have to high noon basically immediately. Yeah. Okay. Unfortunate. Mostly this comes down to a team understanding of how this works. Like, obviously, your attack was reasonable. We'd have liked to finish the map, but your defense was tragic. And this is going to come down to literally not understanding the matchup, but also just more generally not understanding how peel works in poke. Peel and poke is primarily done through pressure. Yes, flashbang exists, bash exists. These things exist, and they're pretty cool as peel tools. But most of your peel is in the form of pressure, of not letting the opponents get close, of not letting the opponents get to a situation where they can surround anyone. And it is much harder to surround anyone when you guys are spread out and use your strong poke to threaten areas that they would like to be in if they wanted to try to surround someone. Like, aha, I'll stage here. Good luck with that. I'll stage here. Well, you can try. I'll stage here. Nope. You definitely will not stage here. You definitely will not stage here. That sort of thing. Like, that's really what we're going for. And you can play a little bit close where you're Cree, so you go, I don't want to get too far from my team. I'd like to be able to make it back relatively soon, but I'm also going to play enough away. You know, I'd like to be in a place where I can get repair packs, or I can get Harmony Orb, or I can get them within a second or two, that sort of thing. Or I can get to be able to see my team and have a sightline on my team within a second or two, that sort of thing. Like, those are conceptually good. That's what we want. What you did on second, where you played down in that stairwell there, we want to see more of that. More situations where you take that. More situations where you take place spots like the window. Less situations where, like on first point defense, where you just stacked on top of your team, and unsurprisingly, Tracer came in from the side, and Ball came in, and they hit a good dive. That's what's going to happen. So this stacking on top of your team thing is sort of like a overly simplistic way to understand how peel works, and it's not really what we want to do. Again, you get a little bit of an exception, a little bit of a window and ability to do it if you just stack stupid amounts of peel. That's why Goats existed and was able to do what it did, and you can still hit stupid levels of peel by stacking Brig plus McCree, but especially when you're not doing that, you need to be controlling your angles, and honestly, even when you're doing that, I'd still most of the time prefer to see you guys taking at least slight off angles to get your work done. It is going to serve you better. Like, this is a big macro thing, and I kind of need you in team play at least, but really even in your individual play, to understand how this works, why this is better for you to see success. So if you don't understand this macro concept after having seen this video, again, we're looking to have a little bit of a spread. We want to be able to protect each other. Don't let the opponent through lanes. You're really good at shutting them down as Kree, because you can't let a dive team set up angles around you, set up the ability to dive you from multiple directions or to dive your teammates from multiple directions. And if you stack on your team, they can very easily set that up. So deny them their lanes, even if you have to separate a little bit from your team to do it. Just be in a place where you can fall back to get team support, or you can fall back pretty quickly to give them ranged artillery support. If takes you a bit longer to be able to give them close range flash fan support, that's perfectly fine. It really is. Okay. So that's going to be like the main and the most important thing for you to take away from this VOD, because it's actually how you play poke comps. It really is. The next thing we'd get into on your McCree would really be your tracer fighting specifically, and your tracer fighting really does need to involve more putting pressure on her, less wasting your flashbang. Don't get your flashbang wasted. Put pressure on her with your weapon. Your flashbang really shouldn't come out until you've seen her burn recall and probably 2 to 4 blinks. How many you need to have seen burned is going to depend on how long it's taken you to burn those cooldowns. It's kind of the truth there. Obviously, you can absolutely flash her if you surprise her with it, but you shouldn't surprise her with it while dueling her most of the time, unless something interesting is going on to cause it, like, hey, she's going to blink around this corner to try to force the elim on me because I have like 12 health, that sort of thing. Or, hey, you have like 30 health, then you kind of have to do what I pray that this flashbang is going to hit her, because if it doesn't, you just lose. That's perfectly fine. If you play for your outs. If your flashbang is your only out, if her not blinking your flashbang is your only way you can win the fight, that's perfectly fine, but that really only happens when you're down to 30, 40 health, that sort of thing. That doesn't happen when you still have 200 health, 180 health, that sort of thing. We're playing to force out her blinks in that duel in the first place. So those are 2 things I want you to work on for McCree. The bigger thing by far is this understanding of the macro game, of how the angles work, how you deny them from staging and setting up concaves around your team. The next thing that we'd get into would be your Widowmaker. First thing I'd say with your Widowmaker, very similar thing. Understand your off angles. Don't want you stacking on your team. We could even tie that into don't do your trick shots on top of your team. Your trick shots need to end you in places where you're still useful, where you're still applying poke pressure in a way that the other team, can't easily just be like, okay, well, you're on top of your team, so we can surround you and your team. We can maybe surround you, but then your team can threaten some of our stage divers. We can threaten your team, but then you can threaten some of our stage divers. We don't like that. That's how you'd want to think about that. Other thing we get to is mine. Like, seriously, that mine exists. You used it a couple times, but there's more places to use that. Think about even putting it down when you're rotating from one sight line to a new fresh angle to get a new fresh peak advantage. Think about putting it at your old one, especially if it was in a place that a flanker might come through, that sort of thing. There's more we could do with Widow in terms of sometimes when you should go for SMG rather than scope, but you actually had another place where you did that quite well. We could talk a little bit about Infocyte. You were a little early on your timing there, but I actually think we've given you a good major concept for poke heroes in general to work on, and then we've given you a little bit of micro for each hero beyond that. So this is pretty much what I want a review to walk out looking like. So I think we're good. If you have any questions, don't understand anything like that, absolutely throw it up in chat now. If other people have questions or are looking to get coaching themselves, they can throw stuff up in chat. If they're looking to get coaching, they can join my Discord in the description below, see what rates look like, promos, special events we have going on. They can become a watcher, see what we're reviewing, what sort of thing we're covering, as we talked about a bit earlier in this video. Sometimes we review Reddit posts, sometimes we review guides, sometimes we look at upcoming video games and say, oh, that looks interesting, or like yesterday, that does not look very good and that franchise is probably done. Yeah, a little bit of everything. When is Ask Temporal video? Yeah, that's a great question, Val. I owe that to you guys. I just wanted to do an actual announcement for a time, and I just haven't made that announcement happen because things. Next few days, it'll probably be this weekend. We don't have Northeastern matches. I'm trying to do some pretty heavy Northeastern prep, but we don't have Northeastern matches this weekend, so I'll probably put something up in the next day or two saying a specific day and time for this weekend. But good reminder. Uh-huh. You guys are talking about end of season. Yeah, end of season can be rough. Does Temporal have any theory on why games near end of season is worse? Any tips on winning such games? If you tilt easy, don't play during it. Most people tilt easier than they think they do. If you've truly removed yourself from caring about the outcome of each individual match, you'll be in a situation where you can correctly go, yeah, okay, I'm probably going to finish the season lower than I want, and that might not be good because it's a permanent thing on my account, oh no. But if you're really playing to get better, and you really don't care about that sort of stuff, you can use it like any other time. The games might be a little wilder than normal, but that doesn't mean you can't improve during it. That said, if you find yourself losing 300, 400, 500, 600 SR, please pull the plug before you've lost 5, 600 SR and go, wait, no, I'm getting a little tilted. I'm not understanding how these games are playing. I don't want to build bad habits while trying to I don't want to build bad habits that must be sneaking in here while I'm trying to work on this new habit. Let me just take a break or let me back off and see how this goes. And now, okay, now I'm back because you don't want to build bad habits and you also don't want to get yourself tilted on something because it's hard to not be tilted if you're down 400 SR or whatever. One Patreon so we can get temporal subscription. Excellent question. Stacking probably better than last week. Yeah, that's a good point. Don't play to win except being 200 SR below your dignity and have fun. There you go. Will Ask Temporal be a regular thing? Yes. Yeah, I don't mind handling some off the ball stuff in regular reviews, but Ask Temporal will be a somewhat regular thing. Yes. Get better at playing tilted. Well, it's really hard. Like, it's really hard to be like, no. I want to be so good that even at maximum tilt, I can beat the opponent. Like, maximum tilt version of you, even moderate tilt version of you, is quite a bit worse on a 5,000 point scale, because that's what SR is on, a 5,000 point scale. It's quite a bit worse than regular version of you, like full power version of you. So people think like, no, I'll fall enough that even while tilted, I'll just beat my opponents because I'll be that much better than them. And yes, that spot exists eventually, but it's a lot lower than you think it is. It's not 200 SR down from your normal playing spot. It's not 400 SR down from your normal playing spot. It might be 1,000 SR down from your normal playing spot. It might be more than 1,000 SR down from your normal playing spot. Like, don't count on that. Just pull the plug and be like, hey, it's fine. Okay, we're going to go ahead and call this one here. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Any tips to not play worse when talking too much on comms? Talking on comms is going to be a distraction. You're going to play worse. You're going to have less mental power available for other things, which is one of the reasons why if you're trying to focus on getting better at other things, being in comms might not be the best thing in the world for you. If you're going for maximum chance to win each individual game, maybe being in comms makes sense. It might not because it can also tilt you, but unless you're working on, hey, I want to get better at my comms, I want to get better at, my fight planning, I want to get better at my communication, that sort of thing, might make sense to not be on comms because I'd generally rather assign that mental power elsewhere for improving, for learning, that sort of thing. That said, comms could make up a decent portion of your SR. They did for me when I played. Like, I know my comms were very good, and when you'd play without them, you'd be quite a bit worse, and that's fine because you're working on other things. Okay, if you guys are enjoying the content, drop a like, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks.